A sudden clatter on the busy street caught Mr. Harrison off guard. He was stepping out of his sleek black limousine, adjusting his cufflinks, when the sound of a tin can rattling against the pavement turned his attention. There, beneath a flickering streetlight, a young boy, no older than 14, was kneeling on the curb with a small, battered guitar in his hands. His voice, fragile yet hauntingly beautiful, cut through the cold evening air. "And I'll wait for the light, even when the night won't end." The boy sang, his eyes fixed on the cracked sidewalk as if it held all the secrets of the world. Despite the chill, his bare knees scraped against the concrete, his shoes worn and patched. Passers-by ignored him, hurrying along, their phones held tightly, headphones drowning the world out. But Mr. Harrison could not move. Something about the tone, the raw emotion in the boy's voice, made his chest tighten. And then, as if a magnet had drawn him closer, Mr. Harrison saw her. Sitting on a worn folding chair beside the boy, a young girl, no more than 10, sat with her eyes closed, her head tilted slightly forward, leaning on a thick scarf wrapped around her shoulders. She wasn't looking at the boy. She couldn't. Her blindness made the performance even more poignant. She can't see you," Mr. Harrison muttered to himself, almost in disbelief. Yet the boy didn't stop. Instead, he adjusted the guitar strap and began strumming a new, more delicate melody, his voice rising with hope, almost defiant, as if he was speaking directly to the girl's soul. The billionaire's driver tapped him lightly on the shoulder. "Sir, we should—" "No," Harrison interrupted, his voice tight. "Just wait." He leaned against the limousine, the city lights reflecting off his polished shoes, but he was not looking at himself, at the car, at anything he usually noticed. He was entirely captivated by the boy's music and the girl's reaction. A smile, fleeting yet luminous, crossed her face. For the first time, Harrison realized how long it had been since his own daughter had smiled like that. "Why do you sing for her?" he found himself asking aloud, startling the boy, who paused mid-verse. The boy looked up, his dark eyes wide, wary. She likes the songs. She listens." His voice cracked, and Harrison saw how tightly he clutched the guitar, how thin his frame was under his torn jacket. "She listens," the girl whispered softly, tilting her head in acknowledgement. Though she could not see, her lips curved in the slightest hint of a grin, and Harrison felt a pang in his chest. The boy swallowed hard, trying to ignore the billionaire towering above them. "I don't get money. I don't get anything. I just sing." Harrison nodded slowly, almost embarrassed by the tears that stung his eyes. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crisp note. "Here, take this, please." The boy blinked, unsure, but he shook his head. "No, sir, I can't." "Please," Harrison said firmly, kneeling slightly to meet the boy's gaze. "I insist." Reluctantly, the boy took the money, counting it with trembling fingers. His face betrayed disbelief, gratitude, and shame all at once. The girl reached out with her tiny hands brushing against the boy's arm. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was gentle, almost ethereal. Harrison's heart ached at the purity of her gratitude. "You're amazing," Harrison said softly, almost to himself. He watched as the boy, encouraged by the girl's smile, strummed again, louder, stronger, with more passion than ever. And for the first time in weeks, Harrison felt alive, connected, not just to the music, but to something bigger, something real. "Sir, are you going to leave now?" the boy asked cautiously, glancing at the limousine. Harrison shook his head. "No, I want to stay a bit. I need to hear more." The boy's fingers fumbled over the strings at first, but the encouragement in Harrison's gaze gave him courage. He sang, pouring every bit of hope, pain, and joy into the melody. The girl hummed along, her eyes still closed, swaying gently to the rhythm, completely lost in the sound. Minutes passed, and the street seemed to fade around them. Harrison felt the weight of his own life, his business deals, endless meetings, the constant pressure of wealth, dissolve into something simpler, something human. He couldn't explain why, but he felt as if the boy's song was stitching together cracks he didn't even know were there. "Why do you care so much?" the boy asked suddenly, the vulnerability in his voice stark against the rhythm of the city. Harrison took a deep breath. Because I have a daughter too. She's like your friend here. She's blind in her own way. Not like your friend, but she's trapped in her own world, and I've tried everything to reach her. I've tried everything, but nothing works. His voice broke, and the boy stopped playing for a moment, glancing at him with wide eyes. She can listen, the boy said softly. Maybe if you bring her here, she'll hear me too. Harrison's pulse quickened. Do you think she'd like that? I don't know, the boy admitted, his hands trembling over the strings. But she deserves to hear someone try. Harrison nodded. A sudden determination surged through him. Then, I will bring her. The boy's eyes widened. You would do that. Harrison smiled faintly. She's my daughter, and I think she needs to hear your song. The next morning, Harrison's mansion was alive with anticipation. The girl sat in a specially modified wheelchair, dressed in a soft pink sweater, her hands gripping the armrest nervously. Harrison knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Are you ready to meet someone special? Her small face scrunched with curiosity and fear. I don't know. You'll love him, Harrison assured her. I promise. When the boy arrived, his steps hesitant on the polished marble floors, the girl's breathing quickened. She could feel the presence of someone young and alive, and instinctively she reached forward. The boy's eyes softened as he knelt beside her. Hi, he said gently. I'm going to sing for you. The girl tilted her head, a faint smile tugging at her lips. I like songs, she whispered, and then he began. The music filled the room, the guitar strings resonating with warmth. The boy's voice was shaky at first, but as he looked into the girl's face, her reaction, her smile, her soft hums, the way she moved slightly to the rhythm, gave him courage. His chords became stronger, his notes more confident, soaring across the high ceilings of the mansion. Harrison watched silently, tears threatening to spill. His daughter, who had withdrawn from life since the accident, was alive again in some small, miraculous way. He felt a lump in his throat. He hadn't realized how desperate he had been for her happiness, or how powerful a simple act of kindness could be. The boy finished his song, the final note hanging in the air like a breath. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the girl clapped softly, a pure, heartfelt sound that made the boy's eyes glisten. That was beautiful, she whispered. It was amazing, Harrison said, his voice thick. The boy blushed, looking down at his hands. I'm glad you liked it. You have to come back, the girl said, voice determined. Please. I will, the boy said softly, a shy smile crossing his face. Harrison approached him, extending a hand. You know, I think you're going to change her life. And maybe mine too. The boy looked up, stunned. You mean, really? Yes. And I want to help you too. Harrison's words hung heavy in the room. I can't fix everything, but I can make sure you don't have to struggle alone anymore. The boy swallowed, emotions swirling in his chest. I don't know what to say. Then just keep singing, Harrison said, his own tears finally escaping. Keep singing, and I'll take care of the rest. The girl reached out, touching the boy's hand lightly. Thank you, she whispered. Harrison's heart melted at the sight. Outside, the world continued as usual, indifferent and busy. But inside the mansion, something miraculous had occurred. A connection had been made, bridges built from music, hope, and unspoken understanding. Harrison realized then that wealth, no matter how vast, could never buy this. The raw, unfiltered joy of watching your child smile, of seeing someone else rise from hardship, and knowing you had helped in some small way. Strategic CTA placement. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories that will touch your soul. The boy returned the next day carrying his battered guitar case, and a small, worn notebook filled with lyrics. Harrison met him at the mansion's grand doors, holding the door open with a smile. "Come on in," he said warmly. "She's waiting." The boy hesitated for a heartbeat, looking at the marble floors and the chandeliers above. It was a world so far from the cracked sidewalks he called home, but he stepped inside anyway. He tried not to let his eyes widen too much. In the living room, the girl sat with her legs crossed in her wheelchair, fiddling with the edge of her scarf. Her face lit up when she felt his presence. "You're here," she whispered, almost in disbelief. "I promised I'd come back," the boy replied, his voice soft but steady. I didn't want to leave you." "You didn't have to," she said, her small hands fidgeting nervously. I mean, you could have been anywhere." He smiled faintly. "But I wanted to be here." Harrison watched quietly, leaning against the wall. He didn't need to say a word. The exchange between them spoke volumes. There was something raw, unpolished, yet profoundly pure in the connection forming before his eyes. "Do you want me to play another song?" the boy asked, adjusting the strings on his guitar. The girl nodded eagerly. "Yes, please. Can you play the one about the light?" He nodded, taking a deep breath, and started the melody. The notes trembled at first, unsure, like a bird testing its wings. But as he sang, the room seemed to transform. The girl hummed softly along, leaning forward in her chair, completely absorbed. Harrison felt the air itself vibrating with something almost sacred. When the song ended, the girl's smile was radiant. "Again," she demanded, laughing lightly for the first time in what seemed like forever. The boy chuckled, shaking his head. "You're impossible," he said fondly. Then he launched into another song, this one faster, with a rhythm that made the girl sway slightly in her wheelchair. Harrison's heart ached and swelled at the same time. "Sir? She's so different around him," Harrison muttered under his breath to himself. "I haven't seen her laugh like this in months." The boy paused mid-song and looked up. "Different? In a good way?" "Yes," Harrison said without hesitation, eyes glistening. "In the best way." As days turned into weeks, the boy's visits became routine. He arrived each afternoon, sometimes bringing new songs, sometimes just singing quietly while the girl listened. Harrison watched his daughter's transformation in awe. She was more alert, more curious, more alive. She even started to speak more, asking questions, joking occasionally, teasing him about his suits and gadgets. "You really need to stop buying so many watches," she said one day, pointing a small finger at Harrison. "Do you really think time works differently for you?" Harrison laughed, a deep, full laugh that startled him. "Maybe I just like having too many options," he said, ruffling her hair gently. The boy laughed along with her, his eyes warm. "You two are weird," he said, shaking his head. "You're one to talk," the girl replied, sticking her tongue out playfully. But behind the laughter there was tension. Harrison noticed it, the subtle worry in the boy's eyes when he glanced at him. One evening, as the boy packed up to leave, Harrison asked quietly, "Is everything okay?" The boy hesitated, then sighed. "Sir, I don't know how long I can keep doing this. I don't have a home and sometimes I worry I'll disappoint her. Or you. I can't let her down." Harrison's heart clenched. "You're not disappointing anyone. Not her, not me. Just keep being you, okay? That's more than enough." The boy nodded, but Harrison could see the conflict in his expression. He was talented, passionate, and giving everything he had. Yet the weight of his own life pressed down on him like a storm cloud. A week later, Harrison made a decision. He called the boy, asking him to meet at the mansion in the morning. When the boy arrived, Harrison handed him an envelope. "Open it," he said softly. The boy's hands trembled as he pulled out the contents. A check, enough to cover a year of living expenses, dance lessons, and guitar supplies. He looked up, eyes wide, almost disbelieving. "Sir, I can't, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll keep singing," Harrison said gently. "Say you'll keep bringing her light. That's all I want." The boy swallowed, tears glistening in his eyes. I promise." That afternoon, the boy sat with the girl in the garden, the sun falling softly over them. He strummed his guitar, and she hummed along, swaying gently. Harrison watched from the veranda, feeling a mixture of pride, relief, and awe. For weeks, he had thought the solution to his daughter's sadness would be expensive treatments, therapists, endless specialists. But none of that worked. All it took was a boy with a song in his heart and a willingness to care. You know, the girl said suddenly, turning to the boy, I think I can see you. Not with my eyes, but with my heart. You make everything brighter. The boy smiled, blinking rapidly. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. I mean it, she said, her small hand brushing against his. You're magic. Magic? He laughed softly, a little incredulous. Yes, the real kind, she said firmly, smiling. Not the tricks people do with cards or coins. Real magic, the kind that changes hearts. Harrison felt a lump form in his throat. He realized then that he had witnessed something far more powerful than any financial deal or business success. He had witnessed transformation, raw, unpolished, and unstoppable. But just as everything seemed to settle, a shadow appeared. The boy's old life, full of hardship and uncertainty, began to intrude. One afternoon, as they were playing music together, a man approached from the street outside the mansion gates, calling the boy's name. He was tall, rough-looking, and clearly familiar with the boy's past. You think you can just leave, huh? You owe me, boy, the man growled. The boy froze, guitar in hand. The girl, sensing tension, turned toward the door. Who is that? She asked, worry creeping into her voice. Harrison stepped forward, placing himself between the intruder and the boy. He doesn't belong here, Harrison said firmly. His tone carried authority and quiet power. The man sneered, unfazed. You don't know what you're dealing with, rich man. He owes me money, or favors, or whatever. The boy swallowed hard, his face pale. Sir, I can explain, Harrison interrupted gently but firmly. No, I don't need explanations. You will leave, and you will never threaten him again. The intruder hesitated, sizing up the billionaire. Harrison's presence, calm but commanding, made it clear he would not be intimidated. Finally, with a growl, the man backed off, disappearing into the shadows. The girl clutched the boy's hand tightly. Are you okay? She asked, her voice trembling. I'm fine, the boy said, though his voice was shaky. Harrison knelt beside them both. Nothing will hurt you here. Not ever. I promise. The boy looked at him, eyes filled with gratitude and awe. Thank you for believing in me. You're the one bringing light into her life, Harrison said. I'm just here to make sure you're safe while you do it. The girl's face lit up with a smile that could have melted the hardest of hearts. See? He's amazing, isn't he? Harrison nodded, feeling something in him shift permanently. He had wealth, influence, and everything the world could offer. But the true richness was in this moment, seeing two lives intertwine, hearts healing each other, pure joy radiating in a way no money could buy. If you're loving this heartwarming journey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to follow the next chapters of this incredible story.